Hey, what is up everyone? My name's Andrew and today I'm talking about my first film camera that I ever bought, which is the Canonet QL17 Giii. This is going to be a super chill video. This is not a review, but it is kind of my first impressions. If you're interested in this camera, I wanted to kind of talk about what I liked about it and why I bought it as my first film camera, and maybe why you would like to get it, why you shouldn't get it. We're gonna unpack that today. So first, kind of want to go over the camera itself. Yeah, where to start? I guess probably on the lens itself. You'll notice there's some rings on it. This is where you're gonna do all your settings on it. So the first ring on it is your shutter speed. On the inside of the next ring, there's a little view for your ASA, which is I guess what the older cameras had as your ISO. So you pretty much just set that to whatever kind of film you put in the camera. I'm trying to be really basic for anybody who doesn't know about film cameras. Then your next ring is going to be your aperture. The reason that this camera is called the Canonet QL17 is because of the 1.7 aperture on this thing. It does have an automatic aperture on it, but that's if you have a battery, and I couldn't find a battery for this camera. Needless to say, yeah, I could never really get the automatic aperture on this, which is unfortunate, but it does kind of add to the fun of using manual settings. Then finally, this is a rangefinder camera, so you have the knob on the side of it to adjust for your focus, which is really cool. I actually really like the rangefinder style. That's kind of everything on the lens. Then up on the top, obviously you have your shutter button and the film advance lever. You have your view for how many shots you've taken, and there's like a hot shoe on the top, I guess, for your flash, because this camera doesn't have a built-in flash. You have your, what do they call this technically? Like your wind up. I'm sounding like such an idiot right now. Then obviously on the back you have your viewfinder. There's a button to check your battery, which mine doesn't light up because I don't have a battery that works. And yeah, obviously the back pops open. At the bottom you have, it's a standard mount for like a tripod or anything like that. And there's a battery lever on the bottom, and there's the button to rewind your film. So pretty much you're going to spend most of your time on the front of this camera on the lens itself, adjusting your settings, because like I said, for this camera in particular, since I don't have the battery for it, I'm not going to be shooting any automatic settings. It's all manual. And something that I found really helpful, I'm sure there's lots of different apps out there for your phone. I found, let me see, it's called Light Meter. This is on an Android phone. It's really handy to see the light in your room or outside, to kind of pick your light settings, so that way you're not just shooting kind of blind and wasting film. You kind of have an idea. So it's kind of cheating, but as a beginner, you kind of need to cheat. That's really handy to use that app. So now kind of talking about my pros and cons and why I bought this camera. Number one on my pros is that it's beautiful. That's just like a personal preference, but I feel like this camera is really beautiful in my opinion. The QL on this thing, you know, everything on this camera makes sense if you think about it. The Canonet QL stands for quick load, which is really handy. But of course, I'm not the type of person to be taking a ton of shots. I'm kind of more conservative when it comes to shooting photos with this thing. But if you're going to be taking a lot of shots, the QL, the quick load system on this thing is really handy. I actually really like that about this. I guess my last pro is that these cameras are really common, so you're going to be able to pick one up pretty easily by searching them on eBay. So they're common, but that kind of leads me to a con, which is that since they're common and they're really popular, they are kind of pricey on the end of film cameras. You can get less common ones that are going to be cheaper. I think I bought mine for like $130, which it's amazing when I watched reviews from like 4 years ago when people were reviewing this camera. They're like, I just picked it up the other day in mint shape for 40 bucks. Well, probably could have got a cheaper one, but I was really nervous being my first film camera. I wanted to make sure I got one that worked. So I spent the extra money and got one that was in really good condition. Some other cons, the manual settings is as a con if you're just trying to, you know, get some film shots and you don't want to mess with settings. So that's kind of a con if that's in your category, you want something easy to use. That's pretty much like my pros and my cons that I wrote down on this, kind of leading it to my conclusion about this camera and why I bought it. Being my first film camera, I searched and searched eBay for hours trying to find you know, the perfect film camera. And I realized there wasn't the perfect film camera, but this camera really caught my eye just because I think I love the rangefinder style and I'm really happy with it. I'm sure there are other really easy to shoot, like manual cameras out there for beginners, which are going to give you better results. But for me, it was less about results and more about learning the process. Kind of the reason I bought bought this camera is because it's going to make me a better film photographer than if I just had a point and shoot, which there's no shame in that. But I definitely like this camera for the fact that it is manual settings. I like products that are just going to make you feel like you're having a good time and not just like, you know, playing with a toy. Like, this feels like a legit camera. I will be doing more with this camera in the future, so if you're interested in that, consider subscribing. I definitely will be doing like a full review when I've taken more photos with this and kind of like figured out the camera more. But I wanted to make like a really casual, like I said, just kind of overview of the camera. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more videos, you know what to do, all that YouTube stuff. If you guys are subscribed, I will catch you in the next video.